All right, this is Bill Richardson. This is
Bonetta Baki.
How are you? We're here at Koinonia Family Services, session number 2. We are introducing you to affordable and unaffordable mistakes and the power of empathy. And I think that I want to start with pointing to the back of the book. I forgot to do this last time. The back of the book. It's something we use in trainings a lot, and it is Parenting the Love and Logic Way. This is the parenting guide. And on the back, it's got a nice little circle of some of the different themes of our training. So we have empathy before consequences, which is we're going to talk about today. Shared thinking. So we're talking a lot about sharing our thinking with the kids, allowing them to think. Sharing control, giving up a bit of control. Maybe you watched our other video on that. And sharing dignity, because ultimately when you share control and you share thinking and you share the parenting experience with a child, you're sharing dignity and you're building self-esteem. All of that points to relationship. And so really that's our theme. It's also Koinonia's mission and vision is centered around building relationship, not just with our kids, but also with the parents and with all those that we work with here in the office. We believe that relationship is first and foremost.
Absolutely.
2.
The Koinonia way.
The Koinonia way.
The Koinonia.
Teaching responsibility without losing their love.
Or control.
Don't lose your love.
Not over kid stuff.
All right, the lesson will discuss how to help our kids learn from their mistakes rather than repeating them. That's good. What to do when we can't think of logical consequence. How to discipline our children without losing their love. And some other tips. So we're talking about, to start off this session, affordable versus unaffordable mistakes. So what does that mean, Bonetta?
Affordable mistakes would mean mistakes that you can live with. Unaffordable would be like drunk driving and thrown into the house where they make you wear the orange jumpsuit. I do not look good in the orange jumpsuit. That would be
mistakes that get you an orange jumpsuit compared to mistakes that have minor consequential.
You get to wear your own clothes.
Mistakes that allow you to wear your own clothes. I like it. So mistakes that get you into an orange jumpsuit and mistakes that get you into your own clothes. All right, so here, I'll just read some of these. Forgetting their lunch in the morning. Is that affordable or unaffordable? So if you're following along, we're on page 13 of the Love and Logic Parenting the Love and Logic Way handbook. If you don't have it.
Or workbook.
I'm sorry. But we're on page 8. And, that's an interesting one. The whole forgetting their lunch. Is that how many times your kid forget their lunch and then they call and they want you to solve their problem? So I would imagine if a kid made that mistake, getting a little bit hungry could be an affordable mistake. If it's a child who you made their meal or helped them make their meal, set the bag out, and it's a repetitive behavior that they just can't remember to grab their lunch. Okay. So, you know what? At one point, you're like, that's an affordable mistake to make and suffer the natural consequence on your own, kid. However, when is that not an affordable mistake? What kind of situation in relationship to nutrition would it not be an affordable mistake?
Oh, man. You said that it needed to deal with nutrition, and I had the best answer, unless they're a klepto, you wouldn't want to set them up to steal their friend's lunch.
Good point.
But since you're saying nutrition, so if you had a child that wasn't used to being fed all the time, let's say the first few years of their life, they had to hunt down their own food. So that might be a trigger that you don't want to have to deal with, or the teacher.
Yeah. And what about kids maybe you have a kid like this, where at the end of the day, the school day, you go to pick them up and they keep it together all day long at school. And then boom, they get in the car and just flood of emotions, total insanity. This little demon child comes out and you're like, oh, what's going on? And it's because they're empty. They had no food that day. Sometimes you send food with the kids. They don't even eat it, or they eat it early because they're hungry, and then they don't have anything to get them through till 3 o'clock. Now, right now you're at home. You're having the opposite problem due to COVID. You're at home and the refrigerator's right there. We're probably eating too much. But schools are opening up and kids are back, starting to go back to school. And this affordable mistake for many kids is affordable, in my opinion. But there are some kids who it's really just not worth the battle at the end of the day.
Absolutely. However, you can, like if you're a parent who's going to take them their lunch, which I was.
Been there.
Yeah. But they know when they call for that lunch, okay, what are you going to do for me? Because it's going to take me a half hour to get there.
Okay.
Well, my round trip, half hour.
Okay.
And then.
So that was a brain drain.
You can barter what's going to happen before you agree to take the lunch to them.
I'd be happy to bring you your lunch if you don't mind cleaning the kitchen tonight. So now we're bartering. Now we're negotiating.
Exactly.
You know, we like to say yes if in Love and Logic. Sure. But the thing is if it's really not okay that the kid took advantage of you, because sometimes it feels like they're taking advantage of you because they just don't want to remember. They just don't care. Why? Well, they know you're going to show up and you're going to come and you're going to take care of it. Well, once we get into that realm of manipulation, now we're interested in pushing back and saying, wow, I'll take care of that for you, but there will be a consequence later or a chore. Right. Or you're going to have to put energy back into mom and dad because while I'm just so tired, or I have to now work late because I had to leave work to take you your lunch.
Right.
So what are the consequences? Now, we're not looking for kids to feel ultimately guilty about your life. What we want kids to understand is their choices impact our lives as parents, which ultimately can impact the kid.
Right. And they need to know that if we have to leave work, they might not have a sack lunch tomorrow because I just got fired.
Natural consequence for not going to work.
Yeah.
Even parents learn, don't we? The third one says chatting with strangers online. Oh, that's a big one.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
The internet. The internet is a big, big deal. It is it's the dark web. Stay away from the dark web. That's scary. Our kid, is that an affordable mistake?
Man. No.
Yeah, I would agree. We don't want our kids searching the dark web. So we need to work with the kids on age-appropriate guards on our internet and their phones. And, I mean, wow, do we even want to talk about phones?
Probably not today.
Not today? It kind of fits, though. I mean,
I'm kind of brain drained right now.
I'm just too tired.
Yeah, I'm too tired.
Such a big.
What are you going to do for me, Bill, so that I can talk about telephones?
Take a drink of your whatever
that is.
Whatever that is. I'll drink my water in my Koinonia cup. Thank you, Koinonia, who sponsored this video.
And I will try not to show you who sponsored.
Yeah, you don't want to see that. Don't look at that. For those of you who are listening, good for you. So, chatting with strangers is not something some of our kids, especially in the foster care world, whether it's through their phones or through they could be at the library and on Facebook or
on their Chromebook from school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know what the limitations are on the Chromebooks, but kids have access to technology. So there's two ways of thinking around this. Can I control my kid so that they never make a mistake? Or can I teach my kid to make good decisions so that when I'm not there, they'll make a good decision? And so it's age appropriate. So young kids don't have the ability to say no to anything. They just start searching once they get into these phones and these computers, and they won't stop. So we need parental guides around that. We need to help control that. As they get older, our hope as teenagers is they start to show more independence and they can start to make decisions on their own, because they are going to make decisions on their own. We can't control them or be with them all the time.
No, nor do we want to. We want them to be. Yeah. Now, I was going to go a more positive way, except that chuckle, but we do want them to be functioning adults.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to grab a job at some fast food or something, we hope, and hopefully they've learned already how to say no.
Yeah. And that's the goal. Allowing kids to make affordable mistakes, affordable
Right,
choices, as
right.
they say, versus unaffordable. So we don't let them jump in front of the car. That's not affordable. That's not a great lesson to learn. Death is not your ideal learning tool.
Well, you'll quit learning then, won't you?
But here's a better one. A toddler totaling their tricycle on the lawn. That's affordable.
Totally
Yeah.
affordable.
And then, so there's two types of parents when their kids get injured. Okay, so I'm going to picture you. You picture yourself at the skating rink, right? Ice skating rink, skating rink. You're away from your child. Your child is out in the world of the skating circle, especially ice skating, because that's bad. People always get hurt in ice skating. And kid falls. Your kid falls. Your kid, the kid that you care so much about, falls and scrapes the knee.
Oh,
Which parent are you? Do you rush out onto the ice to save
the day.
the day, and you are the super mom, I'm going to help you come, and I'm going to coddle you, and I'm going to make sure that life is, or the parent that says, hey, walk it off.
Rub it out.
And then you go back to looking at your phone and, just
Oh,
kind of hope that,
yeah. I hope my kid doesn't go here today.
yeah. Now, I'm not saying ignore your child. If I know of a kid that barely fell, but actually broke her arm. Well, it didn't appear that the fall was bad enough we were like, walk it off, you're fine. And she ended up having a broken arm. I'm not saying that we ignore actual
The symptoms.
injuries, okay? If somebody truly gets hurt. What I'm saying is empower your children to learn to self-soothe
Absolutely.
and figure things out on their own.
Absolutely.
The next one is totaling a car at age 16. Wow.
Depends on whose car and who gets hurt.
Depends on if it's on my insurance or not.
Okay, now, one of our children, and I'll just leave their name out of it, decided, Dad kept on asking, did you check the oil? Did you check the oil in the car? I noticed the car has an oil leak. Did you check the oil? I will. And we get
Are
a
you
phone.
talking about me? Did you talk to my parents? Because I did this.
Did you?
I did this, yeah.
And we get a phone call. Dad, I'm on the side of the freeway and the car just blew.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? We parented the love and logic way, picked him up, and we were sad, and it was a bummer.
Mm-hmm.
And now his feet were his transportation until he got a new car. And he checks the oil now.
Do you want to know where I was?
Oh,
I was Highway 17 near Santa Cruz, California. One of the most dangerous. I was literally on my way to college, first day. A lot of my college friends, if you end up watching this, you probably don't know. On the way to the first day, I'm in my old black Camaro that I got from my uncle, and I'm an idiot. I didn't check my oil, and I ended up breaking down on Highway 17. I was late to new student orientation.
oh,
My dad had to, luckily my parents were taking me that time, and we had two cars, and they got me to school. And then my dad's like, did you ever put oil in this thing? Because it's no oil at all, right? And I'm like, oh gosh.
oil? I thought the
yeah,
oil
I
just stayed in the
just-
car.
But I tell you right now, I have never forgotten since I was 18, I think, or just turned 18. I have never forgot to change my oil since then. And I'm like 19 now.
I know. At work, we keep him hopping. That's why he looks so good.
The gray hair, it's just, it's a weird abnormality. But anyway, so totaling a car is quite different. Using drugs, drinking, those are not affordable mistakes, right? We do want to help our children and be much more involved with drinking and driving and drugs and internet and pornography and things that are addictive in nature. Ultimately we can't control them, but we want to, in a loving way, give them as much choice and different opportunities throughout their life that when we do speak in to something as big as that, and they say, can I borrow the car? I'm going to a party, and that's where they drink. Well, then I'm sorry, but that's not an affordable mistake. Catch a ride.
Yeah.
Take
Not
a
this
cab.
time.
Or let's just say Uber, if it still exists by the time this is on the internet in California. Uber it. I mean, Uber is an amazing, safe thing to do, generally speaking. I mean, obviously, we don't know all the Uber drivers, but it's probably safer than drinking and driving. It is safer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A great thing to teach your kids how to Uber. Get the Uber app. Okay, forgetting homework. That's a big one.
Okay, now that one, I wouldn't bring it to them. And that one's hard.
Oh, if they forgot their homework.
If they forgot their
at home.
homework.
Yeah.
It's not like nutritional.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh man, what do you think your teacher's going to say?
Yeah.
But please, you're coming this way. No, I'm really not coming your way.
Ours is always food. Like kids are like, oh, bring me some food. I forgot food. And I'm like, oh, bummer. I'm at work. And no, you're out of luck. But my kids didn't suffer any major trauma that,
had to have
had
that.
to deal with that.
Well, and let's face it, on the school lunches, you just go up to the office and charge it, right?
Yeah. Oh, my daughter would do that. I won't say which one. She would go and just build up this tab, and then I would get this bill.
Right.
And I'd be like, what? And there's only so many ways you can pay at a school and write a check. I don't even know what a check is, but I'd write a check.
Oh, I have a story. One of our a foster parent I knew, she had just adopted, and never parented before. So she went in, she paid for the year of lunches. And I think by the end of November, they were needing to reload the card. He had been purchasing, he thought he was just swiping, a lunch card, and he was feeding his friends breakfast, and he was very popular.
Sounds like a sail and sign card. You ever go on a cruise and get the sail and sign card? Then you get your bill at the end of the, you're like, what the heck is this? Oh, crap.
How did this happen?
Yeah, that snuck up on me. Oops.
Yeah.
Let's go down a little bit further. How about playing video games for hours and hours?
I can't really speak into that one right now since I have 2 adult children who love those. Well, I have 3 adult who love those and play. But when they were back in school age, it was with direction of how many minutes. It's a good way that they can earn too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a privilege to be taken away.
Right.
In this discussion, we're talking about an affordable and non-affordable choice. So we're talking about something that you allow the child to suffer so that they learn.
Right.
A kid playing too many video games, they're not suffering at all. I don't know if you've seen this video. We used to play it. It's on YouTube. Just look up father tractor video games.
It's a good one.
Oh,
it's such a good one.
So there's language in it. So, little ears, muffs. So this dad, he's so sick of his college-age son doing nothing with his life that he decides to go and he just takes all the video games, puts them on the lawn, and then he's got the tractor, and he's like, you got to watch it.
It's
and
awesome.
I don't know if it's fake or set up or whatever. And then he just takes the tractor and he just runs over probably $1,000 worth of video games. And this kid is just crying and he's devastated. And it's like, that's what's going to happen to these kids. If you let your kids play video games all day long and there's no structure around it and it's not just a privilege. I mean, this is similar to eating, right?
Right.
The kid cries, we give him a donut. The kid cries, we take him to McDonald's. The kid cries, we give him top ramen. The kid cries, whatever, you know, and then this relationship with pleasure, and really what I'm talking about is teaching your kids delayed gratification, and to learn that they don't always get their way, and so we have to learn how to parent in such a way where we're, as they said, we are still loving, we are friendly to our child, but we allow some structure to come in. And we don't always save them from a choice that they're making that they can suffer the consequence from. So really there's two principles in this discussion. Don't spoil your kids, but allow them to make mistakes that they can learn from. Don't save them from getting a D if they deserved a D. Don't write your kids' reports for them. Okay? I don't know if your kid's going to go to Harvard. Probably not.
Probably
But it's
not.
okay to go to Sierra College. It's free now. Junior college is free for a couple of years. And so, you know what? I would say that probably some kids go to college and their professors, and I've heard professors say this, like these kids, they couldn't write to save their life. How did they even get through high school? Well, it's because their parents wrote their reports for them.
Right.
And then they go to college and mom and dad's not there to write your report. And now where are we? Well, now we got a straight A student who's getting barely C's.
Right. And how did that happen overnight, right?
Because we didn't allow them to learn the hard way.
And, the consequence is the bad guy, not us.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's a story of the cocoon. You heard the story of the cocoon. The caterpillar turns into a butterfly, but some person thought it was just so mean to let this poor caterpillar turn into a butterfly and have to stretch out. And they opened it up, the cocoon, too soon, and the butterfly never flew. Because part of the birthing process out of the cocoon builds the muscles to fly. And so sometimes when we don't allow them to struggle, they can never grow to their potential because they always need you there. Okay.
So,
empathy.
So that could be why we have a lot of non-empty nester parents out there.
Yeah. Yeah. We specialize in finding empty nesters in our business, and we can't find them right now because you kids haven't left the nest. I need you to leave the nest so that we can backfill it with some foster kids. That's what we do.
That is what we do.
Yeah. And, people come to our parenting classes. How do I get them out? How do I get them out? Well, make it uncomfortable. All right. We talked about that last week.
Yeah, I just thought I'd throw it in there.
All right. So we touched on empathy, which is the second part of session 2 here. And we talked about you guys practicing an empathy statement and picking an empathy statement. We talked about that's so sad. What a bummer. Bonetta likes the bummer one. Oh, man.
Or what does other people do?
What do other people do? That's a good one to actually be empathetic, but turn the problem back over to the kid.
But, when you learn this really well and you parent this way, I mean, I've had my children ask me, what do other parents do? And at that time, it was like, I really don't want to know what they did.
Yeah, that was one of the stories in the videos. They say, what do other mommies do? And that's what happens with Love and Logic.
Oh, it's crazy.
The kids will actually start to learn it and use it against you. But that's a good thing because it lets us know that they're actually paying attention. Right. And aren't they always paying attention? And so you get these kids who, my children, we use Love and Logic with. And later, as they went on to babysit, and then actually one of my daughters went and lived in college at a dorm. And she remembered some of these principles of really being able to communicate through empathy. And not always being reactive. So what we say in our company is learn to respond, not to react. And now we're talking about empathy. And we're talking about what is it to be empathetic, not pathetic, empathetic to.
Enough pathetic, Bill.
There's a lot of power in having an empathetic response. Something powerful about being using few words and being loving.
Oh.
Yeah, let's practice that for a second. That's good. We're really gonna get into our mic here.
You know what he's doing. So do I.
Bummer. Oh.
Sucks to be
No, that was the bad one. That was the bad one. It doesn't always suck to be me. Bummer. So what would you say we're trying to accomplish with this?
With the empathy statement?
Yeah.
Well, we, number one, get on our child's level so they feel we understand what they're feeling. To have that same shared, I was going to say shared feelings, but that's not really what we talk about when we're talking about shared control, but it is a shared feeling. And also it buys us time. Sometimes when I don't know what to do, if I do what my brain's moving, pretty quick to figure out how to land on my feet.
Well, that's a big issue that we're going to kind of get into, I think, in the next chapter. But you don't have to have all the answers all the time. You can just say, oh, I'll get back to you on that.
And not wait till your dad or your mom gets home.
Right? That's the old threat. Just wait till your father gets home. Well, that doesn't really empower you, mom, does it? Or if there's two moms, wait until your mom gets home, wait till whatever,
right.
the situation.
The other parent.
If you have a second parent, and if you're a single parent, you have the authority. But let's say you're a single parent and you need the time to think, you can use this too. Oh, bummer. I'll let you know.
Or what are you going to do now?
Oh, brain drain. Oh, I'm so tired. I just need to think. Anything to avoid an argument. Anything to avoid getting into it with the kid. Well, I need an answer now. Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me think. Let's just take a minute. There's just something beautiful about not arguing and not jumping into a conclusion, because you're probably going to make a bad decision.
Absolutely. Even as a parent, right? That's when we're going to blow it. That's when we're going to poke the bear.
Especially if you feel something starting to creep up in you, anger, fear, shame,
dysregulation,
you're on the wrong path.
Yep. You
need a break. You got to take a break. You got to just give an empathy statement and say, mommy needs a moment. Daddy needs to go. Let's go for a walk and talk about this. There's something very wonderful about walking with a kid and talking. There's bilateral stimulation with that walking. Look that up. It's really important. And it allows the brain to be calm. And you can actually have a side-by-side conversation. You're also not facing each other, right. So there's no way to intimidate a child during a walk. And some people like drive. Some people like to get in the car and drive with their kids. And these are great ways to diffuse a problem.
Before it even happens, before the blow up.
Yeah, and over time, if you're consistent with your empathy statement, what happens is kids start to recognize, whether they like it or not.
I'm not going to get an answer this time yet.
Yeah, they're like, oh, here we go again with their empathy statement, But so what? Because as long as the kid associates peace and calm and love with these empathy statements or these sounds that you might make, then that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to get that child to recognize they're not going to fight me. They're not going to yell at me. They're not going to argue with me. And they learn to be calmer with you. One of the statements that I love is, I'll talk to you when you are as calm as I am. Because sometimes kids are riled up or
make your voice match mine.
Yeah. And then we can talk.
And you know what? Children sometimes perceive we're yelling when we are being stern. Mm-hmm. So you can even find out what they're hearing.
Whisper. Yeah. If you get a kid because especially if a kid, if a kid is yelling at your face and they're like, blah, 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 and you whisper at them, they're going to be like, what? I can't hear you. What are you doing? Just let's sit. And then get low. We say get low and slow.
Yep.
You're going to get low. You're going to get quiet. This is assuming they're not beating you up, obviously, safety first. But you're going to confuse their brain, and they're not going to know what to do. And suddenly they're going to come down with you and calm down because they have to hear you and speak with you. And now you got two calm people sitting on the floor working it out.
Yes.
Rather than two tall people screaming at each other and yelling, because that's what we don't want.
And with a sore throat. Yeah. And, you can't yell sore throat in these days and time. Your kid can't go to school.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. That's a whole nother thing. It's like, yeah. I hear there's lots of COVID measures that are happening right now. So be prepared that if your kid goes to school, they might be coming home. First cough or fever, they're out of there, and they're checking them all day long at school. It says here in the book, the most successful parents used the same consequences, but they used them with empathy instead of anger, frustration, or sarcasm. So they use the same empathetic statement and the same types of consequences consistently. Kids are dying for consistency. It helps them feel safe. And when a kid feels safe or has what we call felt safety, they then can learn to relax and start to retrain their brain and their body to stay calm and feel okay.
And that calm feels good.
Mm.
You know, I can remember a couple of our kids that came to live with us for a while. And dinner time was crazy. So anything they could do to dysregulate me, or my husband, or the other child that lived in the home, the better for them. That was their norm. But when we allow our children to learn a new norm, like you were saying, the new calm, this calm feels good. I like this. Mm-hmm. And there's not going to be a big explosion just as I settle.
Yeah. I once heard that kids don't like calm because when you grow up in an abusive home, there are moments of peace, but moments of peace or pleasure are also followed by explosion.
Right.
And so they actually become afraid of being in a peaceful situation because they're waiting for the shoe to drop. They're waiting for that next explosion of some sort. And so the kids, they don't know what to do with it. And so you may have noticed kids will actually create chaos for no reason because that's where they feel most comfortable.
Right.
They understand intensity. They understand loud noises and cussing and all these scary feelings because it's what they know. And they're hyper aroused and their brains are on high alert, and it's like a bear is chasing them and there's no bear. They live in this state, so sometimes they recreate it. And so what we're trying to do, and obviously we're talking about children that come from hard places or traumatic places. Hopefully your children, if they are not coming from a hard place, don't have this. But the goal would be to create an environment that for some is new, but it's peaceful, it's loving. It's not permissive and everybody gets their way. That's not what we're saying.
No.
We're saying deliver your structure with a calm, loving demeanor. And then here's what it says. Empathy allows your child's poor decision to remain the bad guy.
Right.
While allowing you to remain the good guy. And so we're going to be talking throughout this series about turning the problem back to the child. Let the problem be the bad guy. You, as a parent, are guiding a child to learn and grow in the world that you're not always going to be a part of for them because they're going to move out someday, hopefully. But you can parent alongside the child and encourage the child rather than be the bad guy.
And even if your children haven't come from the difficult places, let's face it, they know how to get us riled. Mm-hmm. So we forget about maybe the true problem of they forgot the lunch at home earlier. And now they don't want to do the agreed upon chore. Mm-hmm. So if I can cause mom and dad to go off the rails, and maybe they'll forget that I even had to do the dishes. Mom's going to give up and do them anyway because I'm going to give her enough hard time.
And how are you going to respond to those things?
Right.
Some of the most spoiled people I've ever met in my life did not come from foster care.
Right.
And spoiling your kids is really an unfortunate parental choice that we make. Did you know that historically commercials were geared towards adults? And I think in the last 20 years, I went to a class on this, that they've actually geared the commercials to attract younger attention spans, younger kids, because our industry, our society has changed to parents just want to give to their kids And it used to be about, mom and dad. My favorite line was an old Cosby line from the Cosby Show. And he says, no, you're not rich. Because the kid, I think it was Theo, he said, we're rich, Dad. Why does it matter? And he goes, no. You're not rich. He says, your mom and I, because in the show they were lawyer, doctor, we're rich. You have nothing. And isn't that interesting that we come from a society that changed from the parents are the focus of the money and the spending, and the child has to suffer, and the child wants to move out when they're 18 so bad so they can get a job and get their own
what
stuff.
they want, yeah.
And now it's like we spoiled these kids and they don't want to leave the house. The average age.
I don't want to hear.
What's the average age of kids moving out? I think it's 27.
Or 28, something like that.
Now, the research also shows us that the brain isn't fully developed till it's about 26. So it kind of makes sense from that standpoint. But I know when I was young, like you want out like as soon as possible. But our parents taught us to work hard.
Right.
They taught us to go mow lawns if we wanted candy.
Right.
These days, our kids are way more spoiled. I'm guilty too. I spoil my kids. They've been to Disneyland way too many times, and now they're addicted to Mickey. That's a whole thing.
Well, there's probably a therapy for that.
There probably should. If you're, a Disney addiction therapist, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Because we're going to be putting these out. Yeah, below whatever you're watching.
Below us,
or if you're listening. I don't know how you like or subscribe to a podcast. I guess if you're listening, you already did. So
no, on a podcast, they subscribe. So
we
want it to be
subscribe. Stay connected. It's all free. These are our experiences. These are our stories that are free to you. And so that wraps up session number 2. The book does go on a little bit more as far as going deeper into empathy, which I feel we went deep enough. And so in the next session, just so that you want to tune in.
Oh, you're going to love this title.
Which one?
Setting limits without waging war.
Roar.
Or
That's
roar.
True. No wars. Setting limits. But again, keeping the limits and the consequences, the bad guy. I like there's a line from Charles or Jim. I think it's Jim, the dad. He says, let's stay friends a little longer. And I just always think about that line, let's stay friends a little longer. Because whatever your argument, whatever you're dealing with, this is about staying connected a little longer.
Right.
Staying in relationship a little longer. Because, again, the more they feel connected and safe,
the more you're going to get a really nice retirement home.
The better retirement home they'll pick for you. Maybe that'll be the title of this podcast. The better you're no, because then they're going to spoil their kids. We don't want them to spoil the kids.
Oh, bummer.
All right, we're going to take off. We'll see you at the next session number 3.
Take care.